Hello and welcome back to another episode of Graphic Novelties, the series that has definitely always been named this. I recently signed up for a free month of Kindle Unlimited. Other services are available, and other services are probably better. But Kindle Unlimited has a decent range of DC comics available in trade paperback format, in like collected volume format, however you want to say it. I noticed that specifically it seems to have all of the Flash from the DC Rebirth era, so 2016 to I want to say like 2023. And so despite signing up to Kindle Unlimited to read Tales from the Sun Eater Volume 1, I ended up spending time reading The Flash Volume 1 instead. This is the graphic novel titled Lightning Strikes Twice, and briefly it deals with the fallout from the Rebirth event, which I have not read. Something I'm trying to do going into this is not worry too much about not knowing every single bit of the past, events which happened leading up to this point, because this is supposed to be a jumping on point, a starting point for people, and I thought instead of getting super OCD about knowing every tiny detail that happens before, I should just start with a jumping on point. For reference though, I have read a bunch of old Flash comics. Last time I had DC Universe Infinite, I got up to partway through Volume 2, the Wally West era. I just got to the story where he broke his leg. I've also read some of the New 52 Flash, and I read Flashpoint as well, although I was really lost in Flashpoint because I didn't really have any context for it, and I read the trade paperback version. Something I'm starting to realise is that between Flashpoint and Civil War, dipping my toe into a universe, and starting with a trade paperback version of a big intercomic event usually is not the way to go. But what I have had a lot of fun with in the past is these trade paperbacks of like New 52 Batman, New 52 Superman, New 52 The Flash. Actually, I didn't really like New 52 The Flash that much. I don't really remember why anymore, but that's the one I got the most of outright initially because I thought I would love it, and it just did not gel with me. I am pleased to announce that this version of The Flash does gel with me. Oh, I should also mention right at the top here, for those of you following along in single issue format, this volume collects The Flash Rebirth issue 1 and The Flash issues 1 to 8 from the 2016 version by Joshua Williamson and Carmine Di Glandomenico, which I'm probably pronouncing wrong, I apologize. But yeah, I really enjoyed this story. Like I said at the beginning, it kind of starts with, because it's got the Rebirth issue in it, it deals with the fallout of Rebirth, which basically means the old Wally West is back, which is weird because we also have a new Wally West. There are two versions of Wally West, and from what I understand, this is not the only character this has happened to with Rebirth. Apparently there are two Supermans in terms of two Clark Kents. I'm not going to worry, like I said, too much about the overall state of the DC universe throughout this, but it was interesting how they played on how this affected Barry Allen and his kind of desire to have a partner and how that fed into the themes of this story. What I really liked about this story is, as far as I'm aware, it didn't bring back an old villain, it created a new one. I don't know if August has been a steady figure throughout the Flash's life. He kind of feels like a retcon in terms of characters that have been around. I don't remember him from any of the older comics, but then it has been a little while since I read some of those older comics based on Barry Allen's life. But I do like the idea of him and the conceit of the character and where he ends up. So the idea behind Lightning Striking Twice, and we are going to start getting into spoiler territories now because I want to talk about the specifics of the story. The idea of Lightning Striking Twice was basically that someone else gets struck with the lightning that gave Barry Allen his powers, and that's what happens to August. And we get to see and explore what really makes the Flash a hero, because it turns out it's not the powers. I mean, this is some kind of rudimentary superhero storytelling stuff, but it was done pretty well here. August has parallels to Barry's past in that he also had someone in his family get murdered and the crime be left unsolved, but instead of trying to exonerate the person who did get put behind bars for it, he's trying to put someone behind bars who he believes did it. And so when he suddenly finds himself a speedster and has these abilities, he decides to take the law into his own hands. There's lots of conversations between him and Barry about the nature of right and wrong, the difference between justice and vengeance. And I would say the Flash is an interesting superhero in that, for the most part, from what I've seen, he doesn't seem to be a vigilante. He does seem to work within the law, and he works with the law. Because, that feeds into his life as Barry Allen, because he works in forensics, I believe. But yeah, things get even more complicated when there's a Speed Force storm. By the way, I've got to say, no matter how many of these comics I read, I do find it a little bit hard to take phrases like the Speed Force and speedsters seriously. It definitely feels like a relic of the past. Over the years, the idea of a Speed Force has definitely become a little bit more metaphysical as time has gone on. Like, he can feel the emotions of other speedsters through the Speed Force, and it's like, okay, well, how does the nature of speed accomplish that? Anyway, whatever, doesn't matter. Probably explained somewhere. We're not going to worry about it. But yeah, I did roll my eyes a little bit when I realized that they were going with like and suddenly everyone is special kind of a plotline, because that does feel like one of those plotlines that every superhero comic goes through eventually. Spider-Man had Spider Island. I know that within this same era, there's a whole thing about multiple Supermen. Batman has his whole like League of Batmen or whatever he calls it. It's definitely not called that. It's like comic book writers saw the Incredibles, heard the line when everyone's super nobody is, and all collectively had the same thought, we should do that. But I think it is accomplished quite well here, to be fair. It does end up introducing us to a bunch of new characters like Mina that I quite liked, and instead of Barry not obsessing over not being special anymore or anything annoying like that, he was actually quite excited that he got to become a teacher for all of these students in the Speed Force. And also I think the nature of his powers does make it more interesting when he has other speedsters to go up against. I think if you have a villain that cannot travel at super speeds, you have to then design them around the idea of countering super speed, and that can become, a little bit, maybe not stale, maybe that's the opposite actually, maybe it can be an excuse for an interesting design for a character. But when it's something you always have to keep in mind in fight scenes and stuff, I don't know, I just tend to prefer the Flash's sped up supervillains. I like themes of trying to be faster than the enemy and like trying to beat them and trying to get somewhere before they do, and them beating the Flash at his own game. How many times do we have the intro, my name is Barry Allen and I used to be the fastest man alive, but I can no longer claim that title. I watched the CW show, it happens a few times. Actually, I should probably clarify, I watched like the first 2 seasons and I really want to watch more, but it's never on a streaming service that I have. The CW show was my introduction to the Flash as a character, actually, and it is the primary reason why I seek out his comics or his graphic novels, just because I really like the character. In fact, if I have one criticism about this entire story, it's probably that the whole Star Labs thing is just there. It's just a place he can go. There's never really anyone associated with Star Labs specifically, unless we're talking about Mina, and Mina doesn't really serve that aspect of the world as a character because she then gains her own speedster powers. As someone who watched the CW show where the staff of Star Labs feel like important people in the world, it just felt like a weird missing part of the story to me, that there was no one in Star Labs really, apart from Mina, I guess, who felt like the face of it. But that's probably also a product of those characters probably did exist in earlier Flash comics, and their stories have probably already been played out. But yeah, this eventually led up to the introduction of Godspeed, which I love that character, like the suit design and who he is and stuff. The introduction of Godspeed, the full art we had for that, the full art page we had of that, was just, I just went, oh fuck yeah dude. It was just cool, and I think at the end of the day that's what graphic novels need to make sure they're being is cool. They need to be thoughtful, they need to have an interesting narrative, but they should never stray away from just the cool factor. And while it was a little bit predictable, the plot twist that Godspeed turned out to be August, that was interesting as well. I like the idea of a villain that isn't trying to ruin Barry's life and considers Barry a friend, but just goes about things the wrong way. This is a man who, even when locked up in Iron Heights, I think it's called, will not give away Barry's secret identity because he still believes that they are friends. But yeah, he does a bunch of accidental murders, and then he goes and murders the guy who he is convinced kills his brother, and once again, predictably, but not badly written, at the end, Barry does some investigative work and finds out that no, the guy that Godspeed killed, the guy that August killed, did not murder his brother, thereby proving that when you take justice into your own hands and kill people who you have decided must be evil, it is obviously not the right thing to do. But yeah, I think this was a solid first volume in the Rebirth era of The Flash. We also had the younger Wally West kind of like coming into his powers a bit, and the Flash discovering that, and then at the end returning to the theme of lightning striking twice, and Barry needing a partner or missing having a partner, and then getting that in the new Flash, who I think is going to be called Kid Flash. So to recap, we have Barry Allen, the Flash, we have Wally West, the original Kid Flash, now the Flash, and now we have Wally West, the new Wally West, Kid Flash. It's very confusing, but I kind of like it. Like the idea that the original Wally West has been removed from the memories of Iris, who raised him, because this version of Iris is raising a new version of Wally West, because from my understanding the whole rebirth thing is that the new 52 universe kind of merged with the original universe or something. But yeah, it's cool, it's great, and I'm excited to read more of The Flash. My plan going forward is to just read the Flash volumes 1 through 19, and then go and explore other comics or other trade paperbacks or whatever, other lines. In fact, on the screen now is the research I did of every Rebirth era graphic novel which is on Kindle Unlimited in the UK. I'm a little concerned because some of them seem to tie into each other, like Joker War seems to be this multi-comic event, and there's a trade paperback of Batman the Joker War, and there's a trade paperback of Nightwing Joker War, and there's a trade paperback of Batgirl Joker War, and I'm a little concerned about, how do cross-comic events factor into reading things in trade paperback collected volumes? Also, the Batgirl Joker War is not on the Kindle Unlimited service, hence why it's missing from this screenshot. A lot of these trade paperback scans are £3 though, so I would not be averse to, if I was really enjoying them, continuing that way, although at that point, why not just subscribe to DC Universe Infinite? I don't know. Either way, if you are more well-read than me, more learned than me in terms of what's coming up, please let me know if there's anything I should be aware of in terms of my plans for reading. Obviously no spoilers or anything like that, but if I'm going to have a bad time just reading The Flash Volume 1 to The Flash Volume 19 and I'm going to end up feeling lost because I'm not doing any wider reading, please let me know. I really don't want to have to do any wider reading, but I would like to know if maybe I would have a bad time by trying not to do that. Either way, thank you for tuning into this video. This was my thoughts on Lightning Strikes Twice. I want to do a video every volume. We're going to see how tenable that is. It might happen too frequently and kind of cut up my reading experience too much. I might start doing a review of volumes 5 to 10 or something. We'll see. But either way, thank you for coming along and listening to me ramble about The Flash, and I will catch you in whatever I make next.